got the very first 4 Warlords video here on the channel, and I wanted to use it to not only introduce the format, with you're seeing kind of the blurred out gameplay in the background from the Joy Boys channel, but also go over the format rules and some deck lists that I have. One of the big things that I wanted to push this year is this multiplayer format in the One Piece TCG, with a lot of you feeling maybe a little bit upset about rotation and not being able to play with your cards that will rotate out. This is going to be a great format to take advantage of those cards, use them, and just have them played in a casual environment where you're not stuck behind entry fees and the best, most optimal lists out there. Now, I will be posting gameplay of this, so if you wanted to play this 4 Warlords format with me, then check out the description down below. You're going to join the Discord, and I have a sign up list and everything. I'm definitely going to be recording some games this week, so check out that gameplay later down the line. Now, first and foremost, this is very similar to the Commander format in Magic the Gathering, one that is very much successful. And the whole reason why I wanted to push this in the One Piece TCG is we see down the line that even with the Gundam TCG and with the League of Legends TCG, they are coming out of the box with a multiplayer format. One thing that I think the One Piece TCG is lacking, and I think it's just so far down the line in terms of when it was made, it just wasn't something of a consideration at all, which I think is a big downside for it, especially being a leader-based game. I think it's perfectly set up thematically for something like Commander, a multiplayer format where you have a leader, you have a deck that is helmed by that, and we already see that in Constructed. But what if we did that in a singleton format? That's right, all of your cards are going to be one-ofs. You have 60 individual cards, and of course, there's a lot of problems with this format, I think, conceptually as well. A lot of you can maybe think of some already. Some of the rules already look to address this from the way the Joy Boys have played it, but let's not bury the lead in here. Let's go right to the document. Welcome to the 4 Emperors. So it's a singleton multiplayer format for the One Piece TCG that focuses on fun social dynamics and social strategy. As the toughest pirate crew in the new world, 4 captains will battle it out in a free-for-all game to see who will claim the One Piece. Now, the basics, the deck size is 60 cards. So you have your leader plus your deck size, 61 in total. Decks are singleton, as you can only have 1 copy of a unique card per deck, unless the card states otherwise. So if you think of cards like Pacifista that says you can have any number of cards in your deck of that name, you could literally have a card that is leader plus 60 Pacifistas. That's a thing. That is a deck list that I almost want to show later down the line. It's not 60 Pacifistas, but it's enough of them. So cards are unique based on the unique set code in the corner, not the name printed on it. For example, you may play these 2 copies of Roronoa Zoro together, as they're 2 uniquely different cards with different set codes. So that's perfectly fine there. But you may not play these 2 copies of Zoro together, as they're the same card but with a different art. So same, different set code, but it's just a different art of the same card. You may only include cards in the deck that have the same color as your leader, and your life total for the game will be the life printed on your leader plus 2 additional life. So if your leader has 5 life, you will start the game at 7. If it's 4, you will start with 6. So players randomly determine who goes first and playing clockwise. After deciding who goes first before mulligans, players in turn order decide if they would like to do one of the first things. So if they'll be on an odd curve, so 1, 3, 5, 7 and draw a card, or they start at an even curve and go 2, 4, 6, 10. After making the choice above, you may draw your starting hand. Typical mulligan rules apply, then place your life total. From there, the game plays out normally, and only you have you have plenty more options on the attack. So the key thing here is some of the mechanical rules actually change based on some cards. So I wanted to make sure those are gone over as well. So you understand some cards are actually extremely, way more powerful than the others. The following are mechanical effect change rulings to the balance of, out of the spirit of the printed cards, but with now having multiplayer as a consideration. So cards that target characters or stages and opponent controls can target any legal target opponent character. So if you have 2 out of your 3 opponents being legal targets, you can target either one of them. It's not just one. Card effects that last until the end of your opponent's turn are all errated to last until the start of your turn. You may not discard cards to add counter to someone else's defense or block. However, you may play counter effects to use portions that affect your opponent's characters. For example, player 1 attacks player 2's leader. Player 3 may play Punk Gibson to give 4K to any one of their units during the battle, and then rest any legal target during any opponent's turn. So for example, if you had something like a Love Mellow, again, as a Nami player, something I'm always thinking about, if your opponent attacks on their turn, maybe it's the last attack that they're doing, you play out the Mellow, you draw a card, give something a boost, and you draw a card based based on the number of cards in your hand. So you can't like discard a 2k to boost something, but you can play an event and take advantage of its effect. Cards that trigger on opponent's attack or block can trigger even if you are not involved in the attack, which is huge. For example, player 1 attacks player 2, player 2's leader, and player 2 declares blocker. Player 4 may activate an on-block effect on their ST10 10 cost Luffy and KO a character with 8 cost or less. So these are all things that you got to consider, which is a pretty cool part of the multiplayer aspect. Cards that affect opponents' characters, such as power reduction, effects of 7 cost Foxy or OP09 10 cost Shanks, affects all characters hit by opponents. Effects that interact with an opponent's hand life will affect opponents who are illegal targets. For example, 10 cost Linlin enters and trashes 1 life for every player while gaining 1 life for its controller. So it says if your leader is Big Mom Pirates type, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life, then trash up to 1 card from the top of your opponent's life card. So in this case, because it's a 1v1, this is affected to be like 10 cost hits. It hits 1 life from each of your opponents and you gain 1 life. Huge bomb, huge bomb in terms of yellow. 4 cost purple law enters and Dawn minuses 1. Opponents with 7 or more cards, but those without 7 or more cards are unaffected. So again, it's hitting multiple. 4 cost pudding shuffles all hands if they have, regardless of the hand size. Cards that say once per turn during your opponent's turn, such as leader, and it will refresh those abilities at start. So once per turn, if your opponent goes for that swing, with your life and everything, that happens for player 2, your player 1. Then player 3, it happens for them again. Player 4, it happens for them again. Those are new opponents, new rounds all the time. So again, I'd highly recommend you go through, check through. We only have like 1 more page past this, but that's the general gist of the 4 Emperors format. Again, I'm recording gameplay. I'm getting it out there. So if you're interested in that, check it out down the line coming onto the channel. And I'm really excited to just get this format going. At this point in the video, what I want to do is take some time to go over some deck lists. So firstly, of course, I got a Nami Decklist. I had to get a Nami Decklist out there. Now, of course, I'm not going to pretend like any of these decks are like super competitive or like the best ones out there. I think the most problematic leader we have is probably Multicolored Luffy, which I think there's no active ban list right now in the format. It's completely any card that you want to play. I think Nami is probably one of the weakest leaders out there in terms of how it works in a multiplayer format. But 5-color Luffy is probably one of the ones that joins that ban list because it just gets access to all the bombs in every single color and is able to do anything with those cards. So in general, the Nami leader, what I tried to do was just include interaction, but also a bunch of events, as well as cards that generally draw a card or mill a card. So that's generally what I'm looking to do. So for example, something like Sanji, I reveal the top card of my deck. You may play a card and reveal up to 1 character with a cost of 9 or less and, kind of play that card out. So what I like about that, it is kind of like a soft draw. It takes a card off the top. It can whiff, of course. So sometimes that's just going to be, a bit of a Hail Mary, but I just thought I'd put it in there because it's powerful. We have our regular attackers. We have Usopp, we have Bell-mère, but we also have stuff like, Soga King, some of our bigger stuff. We have 10 cost Kaido because honestly, it's just a solid threat. Even this Kaido draws you cards, but again, some of our bigger stuff, it may not necessarily be drawing cards, but it's just a big effect, a big threat. Something like Boa can make it so up to one of opponent's characters does an attack, and just so many things in general. So of course I have a bunch of events as well that draw and kind of provide buff. We're playing the regular removal and the idea of gravity blades and red rocks, and so this is how I've decided to build this. Obviously deck lists are all going to be down below, so check that out down there. And one thing I will highlight is if you wanted to kind of play these decks, one way you can do this is I go on the Limitless TCG. They actually have a proxy maker, and so if you go to list input, you can actually put the whole list in and it'll kind of output it like this. And what you can do is go to print, and then you can print to PDF, or you can print directly there. And so this is like my whole list printed out, and then what you do, you print it out, you cut it out, put it over your cards, and then put it shuffle it up into a deck and everything. That's one of the things that I'm going to be doing. I'm completely proxy friendly on this channel when it comes to gameplay. For those of you that watch me on my Magic content, you already know that. But again, this is a great way to print proxies when it comes to that. So especially when you're playing this format, you may not have access to all these cards, especially some of the older ones where they may not necessarily be an active print anymore. I highly recommend proxies as a way to get them. So that's the 4 Warlords one for base Nami. what am I doing right now? Load the Katakuri list. So this is Katakuri. This one's I feel like is a bit more kind of like powerful. I feel like yellow's pretty good in terms of just a color overall, being able to manipulate their life, which is what I like about Katakuri. I like the fact that I can take a look at my opponent's life and reorder them, especially in a format where they just have more life in general. Just making sure I'm not hitting triggers is going to be really valuable. So a lot of the staples, you know, I have like, you know, with the Katakuri being able to rearrange, obviously I have Charlotte Linlin, I have the Katakuri at 8 cost, I have Banish on the Nami, and then a bunch of other ones. Some cards have triggers, some cards I put in here just because they're 2k counters. Yamato's in there, you know, a bunch of our bigger drops, even like something like Trafalgar Law, reveal a supernova type character card from your hand and add it to the top of your life face down. Then if your leader is supernova, give it 1 Rested Dawn. Like that may not be the case, but this is a card that's just a 7 cost 9k, right? So again, it just has some amount of abilities. It does something. It could be pretty much anything else. Just remember these ones as well. These promo like searchers are really good in the monocolor decks. The ones that like 2 and then you look at the top 4, grab 1 card of like any color, specifically regarding that event. So if it's the yellow event, you're looking for 4 cards, find a yellow card. These cards are like super auto includes in here, but you'll see a bunch of these like are just like events that either kind of remove stuff, gain a life, whatever, right? So in general, I think a lot of what you want to do is in constructed, you're really looking at like kind of in the 1v1 formats, playing a curve, some lower, some 2k events, very few large bombs. But when it comes to something like 4 Emperors, I think a lot of it, you want to focus your deck building on like that mid to high tier of power level for these cards. So you're looking at cards that are generally 4, 5, 6 cost, plus some cards that are also a lot higher as well. You want to, because you're singleton, you only have access to 1 copy of that card. You want to make sure you have a lot of high cost things that you can play out later down the line and really threaten boards once things start gumming up and everything like that. So things can be a little bit tricky when it comes to deck building like that, but I'd highly recommend starting off there. And of course, some of the other options like this, again, Kazuki Hayori, like, you know, again, I'm not really using the on play. The trigger's kind of nice, I guess, but again, it's a card that's a 2k counter. Obviously the Capone here, 2k counter. So you're including some of the regular things in there to use alongside the Katakuri. Heck, even look at the NL. If your leader has Sky Island type, this card gains rush, whatever. I'm not using it for that. But what's nice is when it's attacking, you may trash 1 card from your hand. If your life has 1 or less cards, place 1 card from the top of your deck on top of your life, and then this character gains plus 1k. So it does have like a relatively active ability, but I'm not maximizing on all of it. Some of the cards are just generically good, and you're going to be able to play them in that aspect. So this is my Katakuri list. Again, description down below. If you wanted to print this out, copy it, take it directly into the Limitless TCG, you know, proxy maker. Of course, if there's another website that does this, that's fine. This is just the one that I use. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Again, it's just a convenience factor. You can put it into grayscale mode, add spaces in between cards like that, and again, cut them out and everything. So a lot of fun stuff there. Now, in terms of the last deck list that I'm going to be trying to try out, this is like a meme list. So as you can see, I decided to use this Nami because the basis for this deck was putting in like literally just 30 Pacifistas. You can have more than 4 copies of this card in your deck. So you can just have an unlimited amount of cards called Pacifista in here. So I put 30 of them in here, as you can see by the looks of this deck builder. And the reason I kind of use this Nami specifically is just because it's almost like permanently a 7k leader. Which is, I think, is great because these Pacifistas don't have any counters on them. They come down as a blocker. So I think naturally you have some defensiveness, but also I think just having that leader that you're able to discard a Pacifista and just stay large is going to be important. And then after that, I just included some generally like solid cards, you know, some bigger bombs in yellow and, you know, things like that. Like even when it comes to the Charlotte Linlin, like against a little bit of manipulation, I included some blue events, some yellow events. I figured like, even once it gets past my blockers, like I am going to be using the Pacifista to generally attack, so I'm going to be taking some hits. So it's nice to be able to regain some life, but also make sure that those life have a good chance of like having triggers in them to go through the rest of my deck. So this is just more of a meme list. You could literally play a leader with 60 Pacifistas. That's perfectly fine in terms of a meme build. And there's so many cool leaders to build. I mean, again, I'm just looking at the blue ones here in terms of leader, but like, just take a look at this. Like think of all these leaders that, I mean, honestly, look at let's look at leaders for like, let's look at leaders that we have for even if I could spell, even for black, right? Even if we just had black, like look at this, like leaders that just don't really see play like that anymore, right? Like, or at all. Like you could build a really cool like singleton Monkey D Luffy deck. It wouldn't probably be that great considering this deck requires consistency. But Kobe doesn't see a lot of play. Isho doesn't see a lot of play. This version of Rob Lucci doesn't see a lot of play. So again, like all these leaders that don't really see a lot of play, just because they're in these colors, they will see play because the leader effect is very powerful. But a lot of times, like Black just wants to play staples in general. Like I wonder what a Marshall D Teach deck looks like in this format. Again, a leader that's just hard stopping anything your opponent's doing. I feel like Teach is really powerful because activate main until the end of your opponent's next turn. So again, this will just go to your turn. Your opponents can't activate on play abilities. This leader has got to be so powerful. My apologies, I just banged my mic there. This leader has to be so powerful. Obviously the support may not fully be there, but I think in a singleton format, just being able to like discard random cards, have like trash synergies and stuff, something like Marshall D Teach is something I'm definitely looking to build as like a prison type of deck. And what's nice about like the multiplayer format is if you play a deck like this, then you kind of make yourself the enemy from the get-go. So you have to be coming out the gate strong, building it powerful, because even though you may apply an oppressive effect, you have potentially 3 attacks coming at you if you're doing anything way too crazy. So you got to be careful when it comes to leaders like this. But regardless, I'm super excited to play when it comes to that. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below. This is my soft introduction to you of my 4 Emperors format, not mine, I should say, the one that has been kind of community driven, that the Joy Boys have really kind of put out there because of their video. And I want to do my job in terms of like pushing it. If you wanted to play games with me over webcam, let me know in the comment section down below. I got signups going on the Discord, and again, you will definitely be seeing gameplay down the line. Thanks everyone for watching, and enjoy the rest of your week.